Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Just give us a few seconds before we go live. We're seeing a lot of people joining in. So we'll just wait for a few minutes and then go live. Yeah.
We can discuss weather or election results in the meantime, right?
Or if you want, we can discuss the fact that this conference has a panic button.
Don't push it.
Well, I don't dare.
Actually, my picture doesn't match my current appearance. Blame it on COVID.
You're really a blonde woman, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I can see a lot of people joining in. So we'll just give them a few moments before we start. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. The room expires in 3 hours.
It looks like it.
All right, Mark, I think we're good to start. Yeah. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Niranjan. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, which will be discussing the powers of Oracle FLEXCUBE Universal Banking version 14.4. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Mark Hatini. I am the founder and CEO of a company called READY. And I have 2 jobs today. My conference panel participants gave me 2 jobs. They only have 1. I have 2, so thank you. I am moderating and I'm also speaking today. So I'm beginning off with the moderation and then I'll end off with a brief speech as well. So as you see, we have 2 panelists with us, and I'll be introducing them shortly. I just want to give you a little bit of a description of the landscape of what we're going to talk about. READY my company focuses on technology transformations for banks, and we are in very strong partnership with Profinch Solutions, looking to serve customers here in Europe. We also, as READY, just have a newly acquired partner in Bluepoint Consulting, who has very in-depth experience, so we're happy about that. And of course, we work actively with Oracle in the region. The topic we want to discuss today is how to get an edge in terms of Oracle FLEXCUBE. I think it's a prevalent topic not only because of the fact that there are a lot of core banking systems out there that require switches, but it's also a typical topic where people get scared when you think about switching core banking system. It's not an easy thing. So we want to take some of the edge off and give you the edge. That's kind of the spiel. During the session, we'll be talking about the changing landscape in the region, how banks are, how the customers and the challenges are coming. The customers are coming, but the challenges are coming in terms of digital as well. How we need to do technology interventions to address those challenges and the changing regulatory landscape. We'll talk about some of the best practices of how one of the leading banks in Hungary are dealing with these types of challenges. Vivek will go very deeply into FLEXCUBE technical specifics and how to transform into the version 14.4. And I'll talk a little bit about why we think it's very good to have a strong local partnership to help you and your venture. Again, to introduce the two participants, we have János Pereczes. He's the young guy in the picture. Sorry, Vivek. János looks like younger than you. So he's leading digital transformation at MKB Bank, which is one of the leading banks in Hungary. And we have Vivek Srivastava, who is the global head of pre-sales at Profinch. I'm very happy to have them here. Yeah. Just to give you a little bit of background on the companies that they represent, as I say, MKB is one of the leading banks in Hungary. It was established in 1950, and it's one of the oldest and most determined banks in the region, but it's also one of the ones who did the core banking switch recently, which I was also involved in. And now they're going full stead on digital and full stead on integration as well. They have a very good private banking and corporate business, but they're also going into retail as well. Profinch is a leading Oracle partner globally, so not just in the region, but globally, with experience in implementing Oracle's core banking systems. They have experience in Oracle digital banking as well, crime and compliance, revenue management, and billing systems. The actual awesomeness of Profinch is that they work with 85 banks across the region, and they also have their own data and digitalization platforms. I already told you a little bit about READY. We are a local company based out of Hungary, but we actually have bases in Romania and Malta as well. We serve about 10 clients across the region. Actually, we in each of the countries we operate, we serve the leading FLEXCUBE bank in the region, some of the largest banks out of Bluepoint from Romania and Malta, and here in Hungary we serve MKB. So we do also full-scale implementation and integration, as well as running the full stack for core banking service. So it's a managed services type approach. Setting the stage a little bit for our discussion, as I mentioned in the beginning, banks are going through a challenging phase and must deal with multiple areas, including competition. There's reducing margins, although there were some good margins in the last couple of years, but some of those margins are being reduced. Customers are no longer loyal and sticky. There's a changing regulatory landscape. The technology is constantly changing. So for a bank, which is traditionally used to slowness, needs to keep up with those technologies. And at the heart of the technology, at the heart of a bank's systems lies obviously the core banking system. And as I said in the beginning, it used to be that the core banking system was kind of a beast that you didn't want to touch for decades. You kind of wanted to leave it alone. You were worried about breaking the integrations, upsetting the customizations, or losing features you had developed into the core banking system, and all the while upsetting your products and your customer processes. Nowadays, the competition the dynamic is changing a lot. That's what we feel. All systems have to be modernized on the fly. Banks need to respond to digitalization and market pressures quickly and not take too much time. And they expect their core banking systems to keep up with the change. So the core banking system can no longer, even though it's at the heart of the structure, can't be a bottleneck. And this is what we're seeing with Oracle FLEXCUBE version 14.4. This new version we really feel is rising to the challenge. So besides having the underlying product processing and the accounting for transactions, there's an engagement layer which is looking at the processes. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And obviously there's Oracle Banking Digital Experience. So with that kind of background, let's hand it over to János so he can talk a little bit about MKB Bank. And János, with all this complexity and all this everything coming at you from all sides, walk us through a little bit in terms of how you deal with this and what your plans are in the next couple of regions. Will you be alive in 2 years? Let us know what's going on.
Thank you very much. If I had to use a one-liner description of MKB, then we are one of the banks that actually touched the beast, and Mark was there with us as well. I will pull up my slides, so I will at least try to do so in 1 second. Application, okay, share. Can you see it, Mark?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, and it's great to be here and share this virtual stage with you guys. I have only one question. I don't know. Do you also see me or just hear me in the meantime?
I think we see you. At least I see you.
Great. Then I look in the camera. Actually, I'm not all around my thoughts. So my name is János Pereczes, as Mark mentioned, and I'm leading the digital transformation in MKB Bank. I'm a business guy, so if that's bad news to somebody, then I'll be more soft and less technical. But I'll leave Vivek and Mark to be more technical on this side. I came with 2 goals today. The first one is to actually share the story of MKB, share our transformation story what are the pillars, what were the stages and are the stages, and what is the experience with transformation and with FLEXCUBE. And the second part of my short talk, I would like to highlight our key takeaways from the last 5 years and what is the future for MKB in terms of transformation. And I'll also touch on a potential upgrade of FLEXCUBE as well. So as Mark mentioned, MKB is, as of today, a 70-year-old organization, but there is some history to understand our transformation.
János,
our bank was in a pretty bad situation. We had a lot of bad debt. We had a huge legacy in terms of culture, in terms of technology, and also the state had to buy out the old buyer. And there was a decision to make whether to let MKB die or we transform MKB. And fortunately for me, and also for a lot of us in MKB, the new owner, actually the Hungarian state, decided to put a very talented management, collaborative management on top, and decided to digitally transform the organization. And basically the last 5 years for us has been about this transformation, which...
sorry to interrupt,
I'm not going to highlight on this slide. The first pillar, which I think is maybe the most interesting,
sorry.
Guys.
János, just one sec. I think there's some background noise.
Sorry to interrupt. If you can just turn on your slideshow mode, János, so that everybody is able to see clearly what's there on your slide. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Good?
Yeah.
There we go.
So the first pillar of our transformation, the sound is good, Mark?
I think I heard a little bit of background noise, so I'm going to go on mute and see if that helps. Maybe Vivek and Niranjan and all the rest of you, if the speakers can go on mute, maybe that helps, and then the listener can hear us better.
You know what? I'll put on the AirPods. 1 second. Maybe. Okay, let's see. Doesn't work. Okay, let's kick it off. So the first pillar of our transformation was actually the core transformation, our IT core transformation. We had a knowledge legacy system in terms of a terminal system, and we decided that we'll touch the beast, and not just touch the beast, but actually eat the beast. And we started, I would say, a world record sprint in terms of introducing Oracle FLEXCUBE. Mark was actually leading this introduction together with our CTO and some of the guys from business in MKB. And in 2.5 years, we introduced the Oracle FLEXCUBE. I'll talk about this in a couple of seconds. The second pillar of our transformation was actually losing cost, I would say. So one of the big things MKB had to manage is some commitments that the state took on itself to the EU, which were about mostly cost efficiency. So MKB before 2015 was not a very cost-efficient organization, and we had a commitment to create a cost-efficient organization. We had to manage, most importantly, the cost-to-income ratio, and we took it down to close to 50%. And the third pillar was we realized that meanwhile losing cost in MKB and changing the core system that actually uses IT and also from business, we won't be able to build up the right digital capabilities inside the bank. So we created MKB FinTech Lab as a subsidiary of the MKB, which is an innovation lab and competence center of MKB. I was actually leading this before going into leading digital transformation beginning of this year. And we decided that we will do two things. A, we'll find the right partners in the fintech world to learn from them, to get inspiration from them, and to take this inspiration into the bank as startup partnerships. And the second thing we decided that we will actually build up the capabilities. So when we are successful with changing our core system and becoming an efficient organization in terms of cost, then we can turn our gears fully into actually transforming the customer experience. So this was the first stage of our transformation, and I would like to continue with sharing those stories. So as you can imagine, inside MKB, it was a pretty tough period when you actually changed the whole core system under you. And one of the big things we realized is that changing a core system is, yes, a huge task, but it's also a great opportunity to unlearn legacy and to actually change people. So one of the big things we learned is that we could use this core system replacement to actually change people as well. Mark and I could tell stories, I think, for years. But we used this burning platform, which was the problems we had before, and actually changed the core system to change the mindset inside MKB, to be more collaborative and to learn how to work with IT as a business guy. The second big takeaway for us was that almost all of the problems we had during the implementations came from not collaborating and not communicating enough between the right disciplines. I always say that my big belief is that customer value and business value and technology should live together. And this is actually a takeaway from the core system replacement as well. Of course, we had some hiccups. We had some problems, and almost all of them arose from not communicating enough between these disciplines and not creating the right collaboration structures and the organizational structures. The third big takeaway we had during this period is that you need the right partners to succeed in the digital age. This is something that we learned from two ways. One is actually to do a big core transformation like this, you need a trusted partner. We had Oracle, of course, there are many trusted partners. This is a FLEXCUBE webinar. We had Oracle, and we could share all our blood and sweat and tears, and at the end, all our smiles with them. At the go live, Mark and the Oracle guys, they slept in the office. It was a really great experience, but during the whole transformation, we needed a partner that we could trust and rely on. And the second type of partners we were looking for and we were happy to find were the outside partners we call fintech companies, because to actually create customer experience during the time you're changing your core system, most of the time it's not going to be your internal IT guys building solutions. It's going to be partners from outside the developer world and the fintech world. And we were happy and lucky enough to find those partners through Fintech Lab and through the bank's network as well. And last, but I think one of the most important thing, and this goes back to the first takeaway, is that a core system transformation is a human transformation as well, and you should always put most of your resources in actually managing people and not just technology and not just IT resources, but their feelings as well, so that at the end of the core transformation, you will have a motivated, collaborating team that you can build upon at the second stage of your transformation. And now in my short presentation, I would like to go to the second stage, because MKB managed to tick the first three tasks. So we had the IT core transformation with FLEXCUBE. We had the efficiency. We had a really good cost to income ratio, and we managed to build up those capabilities and partnerships through Fintech Lab. So what can we do? And 2020 started to be the second stage of our transformation, which we call, and you can see, the transformation of customer experience. And if you ask me who lead this inside MKB, COVID was actually a great opportunity to accelerate this, because COVID helped us to validate our beliefs that we knew were true, but now the numbers actually show they are true in terms of digital usage, in terms of touchpoint management, in terms of how many people go to do something to a branch versus going to do it through a video chat or a self-service application. And this year was all about transforming this customer experience for us. Obviously, introducing FLEXCUBE and introducing this change management aspect of the code transformation helped us create those teams that collaborated on this. We introduced new digital solutions like end-to-end personal lending for mobile application. Almost 1/6 of the total origination comes from this channel now. We introduced new channels. We introduced video chat channel, for example, where people who want to be self-service, but maybe a mobile application can't fully serve them, can still feel a personal touch with a counselor and go into the video bank and talk to a counselor and get advices. And we also transformed the way we pay. We introduced now digital payment solutions like MKB Pay, and we are working on many things in the background for the end of the year and for next year. And this is the transformation of MKB, basically. The first part was actually creating the basics. We call this building the basics. And the second part is the dynamic development I just described. And if you would ask me, what are your key priorities now, János? I would highlight 4 categories of tasks an organization has to achieve and has to do if they want to actually get the fruits that can come of a system like FLEXCUBE or a successful digital transformation story. First and foremost, you shouldn't, I would say this, you shouldn't leave strategy out of the question. I see many mistakes where every bank has a strategy, every organization has a strategy, but none of the people who work in that organization knows what it is. What you need to do is you need to have this clear narrative which comes from customer value, which comes from the why, and you have to take time to tell your people, to let them understand and communicate to them. So one of the big learnings I had when I went into the bank this year is this is something we had to do. We are constantly refining this why, we're constantly refining the strategy, and we're communicating to the people so business strategy and IT strategy can come together. The second thing we're focusing on as MKB is, now that we have a new system and now that we have people who are more open to change than the usual, we have to have these people know how to work together. I call this way of working, and I'm not even talking about agile. What I'm talking mostly about is the classical business transformation. I think is an undervalued part of digital transformation. So classically, business and IT are not super close together. Business is somebody who, they come up with something and they order it from IT. In our transformation, we believe that IT and business should be a one integrated team. Everything has to come from business value still, but technological aspects has to build in the business value, because new business models can come up, or you can build more successful products. And of course, you cannot leave agile out of the picture. You can steal some of the principles from the Agile Manifesto to make this successful. The third pillar I'm focusing on right now in MKB, I call delivery capabilities. What I see is a big problem in most of the organizations trying to digitally transform, that they learn how to deliver products on a team level, but this can't get out to the customers because on portfolio level, on systematic level, there is no agility. And I think before actually creating systematic agility, you cannot be a really digital company. So what we're doing is we're introducing a methodology called lean governance. I would highlight this methodology to anyone who has problems to delivering products to the market because there is much more demand than supply. This is something you have to accept. But if with the right method, you can manage resources with the right priorities, and you can actually match those priorities and the resources to the strategic level. And last, which is I think the most important, is culture, and especially leadership culture. This goes back to my FLEXCUBE takeaways, but the biggest barrier to change are always leaders, but also the biggest accelerators of change are always leaders. So where I would focus and where I'm actually focusing my time is changing the leadership structure and the leadership mindset in MKB, helping our leaders how to be more better in empowerment, how to be better in communicating, how to use radical transparency as an accelerator of change. And this is something I think most of us from IT or business, any other side, should focus on, because at the end, it's always a human transformation and not a digital transformation. And of course, under this story, there is the systematic level, the core system level, and we're actually playing with the thought of helping this story with an upgrade to 14.4. So I'm actually also looking forward to Vivek's presentation, because we just started this journey and we want to go forward. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your questions, Mark, and the audience.
János, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's great. When I joined banking a couple of years ago, a lot of years ago, one of the things that I found fascinating was that banks in Hungary and the US and the UK and Germany and wherever I went, partly with Oracle and partly by other conferences, really the story was similar for each bank. So the challenges you were facing had to do with leadership, with culture, with people, with the systems tying you down, and obviously, as we talked about, it will a lot of the regulatory impacts, the market impacts, and I think the MKB story is great from that perspective. One of the things that comes out of János is here. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, MKB was a bank that had been a state bank for, 60, 70 years. Now we're talking about a new core banking system, new digital products, probably the youngest manager alive on the face of the earth. Sorry, János, I keep going back and forth on that one. But it's really a radical change. It's really good. Even though we're a little bit past time, I just want to ask one question is, János, it's a really great overview of what a bank is facing in terms of challenges. You also mentioned that you're looking at 14.4 as an upgrade potential. What are you looking for? If we woke you up in the middle of the night and you said, okay, gun to your head, what are you expecting from your core banking system, or what's gonna make the difference for you to press the yes button on an upgrade or a new implementation? What is it that you're really looking for from this upgrade or the system change?
Three things come to mind, and one of them is, I think, a small thing, and two of them more systematic. One of the things we didn't put enough emphasis on is actually the user experience to our colleagues through FLEXCUBE. So the interface is the user experience of actually using FLEXCUBE as an MKB employee. The second thing is scalability. So MKB is before a free bank merger with Takarék Bank and Budapest Bank. And obviously, there needs to be systems that can be scalable. And the third thing is one of the big differentiators I see in the digital space, if you do the discovery phase the right way, is speed. So those who can go to market niches with the right products before the others can, take up most of those profits of those niches. And you need a flexible system to do so. Easy parameterization, easy pricing. That's something we want to get better off.
I mean, that's great. Speed, obviously, speed not just of implementations, but the speed of the time to market. János, thank you. Have a drink of water. Don't go anywhere. You've been speaking for 15 minutes. We'll give you a little break. So obviously, we have a real confluence of requirements that we talked about, and János' story and MKB story. I'm sure you're also feeling that in the audience of all the market pressures, adding layers and layers of complexity to your daily lives. The core banking system, if it just adds layers and layers of complexity and doesn't actually shred it away, then you're not being helped, and you lose a lot of the advantages. What we're seeing is maybe looking at the core banking systems is that they're bringing a wealth of processing, but if you look at the workflow processing and the digital capabilities, the breakdown into components, allowing you to do faster implementations or to focus on pain points, those are all real things that are happening today in core banking. Vivek, now I'm going to turn to you because you are a deep technical guy, so get ready. I'm sure all the people in the audience have heard a lot of stuff about core banking systems from different vendors, different providers. What is it that FLEXCUBE 14.4 does, and what are the advantages of FLEXCUBE 14.4 to help a guy like János or to help the guys in the audience speed up their delivery and speed up their capabilities? Talk to us a little bit about that in terms of the technicals.
Sure. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, János. Can you hear me well, or I need to raise my pitch? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've heard you, János, and Mark, a very solid footing to start a discussion about FLEXCUBE 14.4, reasons to upgrade. I heard the reasons from the business side as to why 14.4 is the right solution to look for an upgrade and what will make the business say yes. There is the other aspect that comes in, and in fact, János covered it briefly, which is collaboration. So collaboration between business and IT, right? So FLEXCUBE doesn't only address the business needs, but it also covers the latest technology. So what we are seeing in our engagements with the prospects and customer, that currently it's not only the business need, for example, GPI initiative for payments or SOFR requirements for lending, right? Those are some of the regulatory or market pressure, but also the technology side, there is an uptake in terms of the architecture, the framework that we use. I will cover all of them maybe briefly. I have a presentation, just let me pull it up. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and I think most of the people in the audience, they already know the footprint of FLEXCUBE. Just to highlight and re-emphasize that currently 10% of the world's bank population, they have an account which is processed through Oracle FLEXCUBE. And in fact, in Europe alone, we have a population of more than 150 banks, which are spread across 42 countries that use FLEXCUBE. But this is, I would say, this is history, right? and this is something like the laurel that we can definitely highlight as our achievement. But when it comes to today's world, the modernization that is happening in technology, the acceleration, and the environment which is changed because of the COVID pandemic, right? So it's a paradigm shift, the way we work, the way we bank, and the way we implement as well. I will first talk about FLEXCUBE, the changes that have come in, and then I'll try to cover the implementation patterns, and then we'll talk about the reasons or add-ons or the actual value add that we can achieve through upgrades, and how Profinch, some of the tools or some of the learnings that we have during these multiple upgrades that we have taken up, I'll share those as well. So needless to say, I mean, in 14.4, if you go to the marketing material, you will see there's a lot of, I would say, new changes that have come in, but a couple of them which are really good. And this is not only marketing, but actually they add a lot of value in the core banking process. First one, I think, Mark, you will cover this in detail as well, the digital engagement, right? So digital engagement in terms of be it customer facing, end customer, or be it the banker who's interacting with the customer as an RM or as operating as a teller or even phone, or I would say a faceless person like a chat bot, right? So the engagement with the end customer, it has taken a different league. When it comes to FLEXCUBE, it has moved to a different league because of the capabilities of, I would say, AI, the mid-office processes, and the digital experience layer that has come in. Now, this is on the digital engagement side. Other part is the most recent capability, because FLEXCUBE has started evolving on its own. We have seen machine learning and NLP capabilities as well. So, for example, just to give you an example, when you are processing the payment receipts in supply chain finance, as and when you go on processing those receipts, system will learn what kind of payments are they, so that during the reconciliation, during the upload process, it will automatically start matching them. So your percentage of reconciled receipts will continue to improve. So this is just one example where we have used ML and NLP. Yeah. Now, a couple of more points in terms of I'll stick to technology. So multidimensional agility because of the new product processors, for example, be it virtual account management or liquidity management or supply chain finance, and in fact, the origination part, right? Be it account origination or loan origination. So all these products, these are, I would say, the FLEXCUBE as a monolithic software, it is slowly moving to componentization. So functionality is being chipped away and being presented as a standalone product processor. This does two things. One is the technology adoption increases. Second is bank does not have to do an overhaul of the core banking system in one go. They can choose to go product wise and then upgrade the system. For example, one of the customers where we are upgrading FLEXCUBE, the need of the hour was to become GPI compliant first. So we are implementing OBPay first, right? And then we will go to other sets of modules. So these are some of the approaches, some of the ideas that we can talk to the banks, we can throw it open, and FLEXCUBE now gives that flexibility or agility to go component wise. You don't have to think about big bang, think about your static data, think about your customer data. So it has become, I wouldn't say that core banking upgrade is more painful than tooth extraction. In fact, it has become a continuous process. You can continuously upgrade the system, just like continuous CI/CD culture that we see, that overnight systems on the e-commerce side, they continue to upgrade seamlessly, and customer doesn't get impacted. The business, the BAU, business as usual, is not impacted, right? Second part is the connectivity. So I just wanted to emphasize that Oracle banking platform, now it comes with 1600 plus RESTful APIs, which helps the banks, especially in Europe, to be open banking compliant, right? And you can use these APIs to have shared services with other banks. You can use them to monetize your services, right? And on the connectivity part, Oracle banking payment is it's completely worked. It is ISO 20022 compliant, right? It is SAML 2.0, which is for authentication, right? And there's different, multiple options for you to integrate FLEXCUBE with other systems in your ecosystem as well as outside your ecosystem. So this is the flexibility which was not available earlier, right? And my personal experience, we implemented blockchain for one of the banks to facilitate their treasury operations across the country. So blockchain is exciting technology, and now FLEXCUBE is blockchain enabled. It comes with an adapter so that you can integrate with the Hyperledger, right? And you can use it to set up different nodes and share or exchange payments using blockchain. Okay, so quickly moving on. I think there's sufficient talk about FLEXCUBE, right? Now coming to the bank side, and János touched on a very important part as to why should we upgrade or due consideration for different factors for upgrade, right? I will talk about why from the technology side or why from the system side, right? So first of all, I covered the technology stack. The new products that have been introduced, they are built on microservices architecture. Similarly, the new regulations that have come in, they make it mandatory that your payments should be UPI, and payment confirmation is a must, right? Similarly, very soon we will have MT to MX conversion, which will come in 2022, 2022, right? And the competition landscape is changing. Now, your competition is not another bank. For banks, the competition is fintech and tech fins also. So by fintech, I would say that people like Square or Revolut, who have just disrupted the payment processing. PayPal is another one. Similarly, the tech phase like Google Pay, Apple Pay, so they are also coming with the offering to so give you an account, you can hold the balance and so on. So that's on the market side. Similarly, regulatory changes that are coming in, open banking is one. We recently saw some of the changes, for example, GDPR, right, or personal data protection, PII. So these are some of the, I would say, need of the current needs that make it mandatory for banks to look for options to either make some makeshift changes in the existing system or look for an upgrade. My advice would be to go with upgrade because there are other advantages that I'll cover in following following slides. Right. This I talked about the componentization. I mean, because now the separate various modules, they are being broken into a separate product processors. So you don't have to do everything in a monolithic software. FLEXCUBE products can compete with the best of breed product processors today. In fact, just to give you an example, Oracle Virtual Account Management, it has been placed at the top of the Gartner's quadrant for virtual account management. It's a leader in innovation, right? Similarly, there are new lines of business which are opening up. Earlier, I would say supply chain finance is evolving, refactoring is evolving. Every day we are seeing new use cases which cannot be handled by your current core banking system, right? A quick one about different approaches that we recommend. We help the banks, to consult and arrive at what is the best approach for systems upgrade. In today's world, it cannot be that it has to be either a big bang or a phased approach, but we have to see what is the priority of the bank. And accordingly, we work out what would be the plan, what would be the method of execution. I'll just give you one example. For one of our banks, the priority was digital first. So when it comes to digital first, we advise them to implement digital experience layer first without touching the core of the processor. So immediate and earliest win was that the customer retention picked up. The value that was seen by the executive management was out there in the market. So immediately, within 4 months, we made a splash by releasing the digital layer. And then slowly we started carving out, for example, we first carved out the asset side of the business, upgraded it, and then we upgraded the liability side. So this is one approach. Another approach can be that you want to first upgrade the corporate banking and then go for retail banking if you are a universal bank, of course. And there are different reasons for that. Corporate banking, while the business cases are complex and the ticket size is high, the volumes are to be under control. And I've seen that with the corporates, banks are much more personally connected. They are much closer. Corporates are assigned. Hello?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So these are the different flavors, and with the upgrade, there is a win-win that, I mean, many times we miss the woods for the forest, like they say, right? So when we are upgrading, when we are changing the core banking, we should also look at it as an opportunity to rationalize the chart of accounts, clean up the mess that gets collected over a period of time, rationalize the products, number of products. For example, you want to, because earlier, for example, you have got two branches, you want to consolidate them into single one. You can do that as part of upgrade itself. Similarly, you want to make some changes in your business processes. All these things can be added as part of your upgrade project. And we are currently doing these kind of exercises with many of our customers, and they see real value in it. And that helps in getting greater collaboration as well, because it is not an IT project. System upgrade is not an IT project. It is a business project as well. So we have to show them the value add in terms of business that FLEXCUBE 14.4 brings in. Some of the, our advantages from Profinch when it comes to FLEXCUBE upgrades, because we have a solid body of work from our experience across the globe, right? So we have got accelerators in terms of migration, because some of the earlier modules are not there anymore. FT and PC module has to migrate to OBPay. Similarly, your CL, the corporate loans, they have to migrate to OBCL, right? So these are some of the cases where we have built migration reconciliation engine, migration scripts, which are available out of the box. We have various methodology, whether you want to take fully last page schedule in nose migration, or whether you want to replay the complete life cycle, right? We come with a repository of test cases and reports that gives you a step up. You don't have to start from the scratch when it comes to an upgrade. Engaging with people like READY and Profinch, that's a huge advantage, right? Along with that, so we have migrated from various versions of FLEXCUBE, starting from 7.x to as recent as 12.x. We have migrated various versions of FLEXCUBE to version 14.4. Okay, what last point that I want to make is that when we are upgrading the system, we can take this as an opportunity to change the work culture that János mentioned, and very important point, because now the world is moving towards CI/CD, seamless upgrade of the system, automated testing, automated release, deployment. So it is a very good opportunity. Please don't miss. Look for inculcating DevOps culture in your IT ecosystem, because DevOps is not only a practice, but it's a culture where the way we work changes completely. We can talk about a lot of automation. We can talk about Agile, Scrum as a methodology, as tool, but until it is adopted by the organization, it is going to give you a tough time. Last point on Profinch products, what we have seen is that while FLEXCUBE covers the whole length and breadth of banking and the core banking and digital experience layer, there are a couple of, we have seen very nice niche areas where Profinch can add value by having their products. For example, agency banking. So currently, be it agency banking, or I would say relationship manager banking. So when a relationship manager goes and to meet their corporate, right? Won't it be nice that he opens a tab where he can access the banking application, do the transaction in front of the customer, and close the deal then and there, right? So FinFlows gives you that capability to digitize, take your bank to the customer. And on the other side is the data story. So the reporting, be it regulatory, be it management or analytical. We have created a repository. We have denormalized the FLEXCUBE data structure into standard reporting structure, using which you can do a slice and dice. You can take the data lineage. You can continue to double click from your loan portfolio to individual loan to see the split, and at runtime you can look at the various factors, how your business is doing, and what is the most important part is the reconciliation. So reconciliation between GL and your portfolio balances. So these are some of the, I would say, highlights from that we get by engaging with READY and Profinch, right?
Next.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there was a great in-depth dive into FLEXCUBE. So I think it's good. It's really good to work with partners from a READY perspective who have a global experience.
Yeah, and sorry, Mark, I just went overboard. I didn't look at the clock. But why don't you talk about the complex set of business requirements and market requirements that are coming in, and how, while the solution set is there in the system, but in a telecom setting, you need to get the last mile right. So the local presence, right? The culture, the language, and the technical proficiency that is required, right? Why don't you talk about that and how Profinch and READY can help the banks on that front?
No, thank you. And I think hopefully you can see my screen. There's a really good overview of FLEXCUBE and the new technical capabilities. And I think we had some questions from the audience, so I will try to actually address some of those questions, because there was a question from John related to, how easy FLEXCUBE 14.4 is compared to previous versions, and a question from Piotr about what are the out-of-the-world features of 14.4 that would completely transform the bank and give an edge. I think a lot of those questions will be answered in my presentation, which I'll try to go through quickly because of we want to finish for you guys within the hour. Obviously, as Vivek mentioned, we have a regional partnership, and a little bit on FLEXCUBE as well. If you look at the system, it's a full spectrum of banking, and the really what I like about it now is, previously, it used to be big bang. But if you're sitting out there and you have a pain point right now, and your pain point is corporate lending, you don't want to go into a big bang for your entire core banking system. The componentized approach means you can just look at corporate banking or corporate lending and look at corporate lending and just change that. And that's why I like, if in terms of one of the advantages of 14.4 is that you can actually do component by component. So you don't need to change the whole system. We're looking at that with the banks that we're working with in the region, and they are actually responding to that. They don't need to change the whole thing, even if they want to keep their legacy system at a different pitch. The other thing that I think is a major advantage that I like about the new version is you got to think about it in terms of the three layers. There's the underlying product processor, which is you associate with the traditional. Above that, as you see on this slide as well, you have the engagement layer. The engagement layer is the workflows. It ties the people in from the bank. It helps you automate things. It's the UX and the UI, the new UX, the new UI, which is also an advantage. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And on top of that, you have the digital self-service. And why is it called digital self-service? It's because you have, on the one hand, digital to your customers, and there's a lot of advantages there out of the box. You're talking, Apple Watch and payment processing and personal finance management out of the box. But it's also self-service toward your organization. So your middle office is using the engagement layer and the digital self-service layer as well. So when your employees are talking to your customers, they're not looking at a screen from the 1980s that looks like DOS on steroids. They're looking at a UX, UI, and the same type of experience that gets them to talk about, what's the next product, what has the customer done, talking about life events. So I think in terms of looking at FLEXCUBE, there's a lot of new advantages which appreciate. Probably in this particular slide, you may not be even, it's maybe even difficult to see because of the breakdown. But when you look at the componentized approach, it's really there. You can look at the various retail business lines, the corporate business, and break down what it is you want to go with in terms of upgrades or the new implementation. Talking about that digital layer a bit, and again, getting back to the question on advantages, the digital layer is giving you desktop, the social, the SMS, the assisted channels, the tablet, the Siri, the Twitter, Alexa integrations in as much as you have them. The chatbot is integrated with the smartphone, the smartwatch. You're looking at all the channels you want to reach your customers on, and even some you might not have even thought of. And that's coming at you, in terms of the digital layer, and your customers can access through these digital channels. I think from that perspective, it's a great tool, and that's again getting back to the question: is how do you get the edge? If you go with Oracle Banking Digital Experience, you get the edge by being able to implement this and serving your customers. I don't want to go too much into microservices, although it plays a great role in terms of the automation, the great role in terms of breaking down your products and services. It helps the time to market, and it's rely on. The final thing on FLEXCUBE, and then I'll jump to Ready a little bit, is the UX UI. To be honest, I don't think the Oracle guys are here, but one of the major complaints that I heard about FLEXCUBE up till version 14.4 was the UX UI for the tellers and the people working in the branches was atrocious. And the 14.4 goes well beyond that, and it does the onboarding, multi-product originations, improves servicing, it gives guidance. It's not a fully busy schedule that people don't see, the workers don't see what they need to do. It really is an improved UX UI. So some of that stuff János was talking about in terms of getting your people engaged with FLEXCUBE. Part of the reason it was difficult is engaged with the core banking system because the UX UI wasn't there. This UX UI is 21st century. It's what they want to look pleasing. They want to work with it. So I did want to touch upon a little bit why Ready, why Bluepoint, and why Profinch. So if you look at how we're structured in terms of our strong partnership, Ready and Bluepoint together in Europe have over 60 people, in-depth experience. These people have been working with FLEXCUBE for over a generation, for over 2 decades, and they're local, and they know the local stuff. They know the cultural experience. They know what EU regulatory means. So when they translate your requirements into FLEXCUBE requirements, they know how to speak the language of EU regulatory. They know FLEXCUBE as well, so they don't know what parameters to touch. And I, for one, am a firm believer in the fact that you avoid customizations, you avoid costly customizations that you have to maintain afterwards if you know your system. If you know what parameter to touch out of the 10,000 or so parameters in FLEXCUBE, then you can avoid that costly customization, which you'll have to maintain for eons and eons. The other advantage I see here is, you own your IP. It's a difficult thing to say that with an out-of-the-box product, but it is true. The kernel of the product, obviously, is for Oracle. But if you work with, partnerships like Ready, Bluepoint, and Profinch together, you own your IP. Whatever you do with your product and you customize it in the customer layer of the product, it's your IP. So I think those are the biggest advantages. I think we've touched upon the fact that we have the power of resources, 60 plus people here in the CE region for Ready and Bluepoint, but obviously Profinch is bringing its global background of 500 plus people to be at your disposal. We work with 10 major banks in the region. Obviously Profinch works with 85 globally. And so that's those are the relationships that help move the needle. I think I'm going to maybe past some of the marketing slides, but the last thing to kind of touch upon is managed services. So if you're looking for support of your system afterwards, you don't want, you have a limited budget, you have a limited headcount that you can work with as a bank. You don't necessarily want, or maybe you can't even build up your own resources to support the system. And it takes a lot of years to understand a core banking system. So finding that knowledge on the market is very difficult. So one of the things that we do here in the market, Ready and Bluepoint together, in association also with Profinch, is we provide managed services. So if you want us to run the application, if you want us to do the development of the application, the implementation and the integration, we can do that. If you want us to do your continuous developments, we can do that. But we can also operate the system. We can do the daily maintenance, the end-of-day processes. All of that can be outsourced to an entity out within the European Union. So basically, you can build your own capability in digital. You can build your own capability in some other service line of IT where you want to have your competitive advantage. The core banking is our competitive advantage, and we provide that competitive advantage to you, so you don't have to. I ran through mine a little bit just to make sure we don't take up too much of your time. There was two other questions which I want to go through and cover. Basically, one question we had from the audience about UX UI, whether you would and go with third-party UX UI. To be honest, I don't think if you look at the UX UI of the new FLEXCUBE, you don't need to chuck this. You don't need to consider another UX UI solution because it's there, so both for the internal facing, but also from ODBX to your customers. And then there was a question about to MKB and János. Together, you and I can answer this because we're both there at the same time. Is about regulatory requirements like PSD2. Did we partner with a company? And if so, how were we able to align the regulatory requirements with the overall transformation strategy? You or I can answer that because I think we did it together.
I can start and then please finish me. Actually, it's like a cheat question because one of the companies we partnered with successfully is an implementation company for PSD2 called it previously called Fintech Blocks, and now they're called FintechX, and they do PSD2 regulatory work for banks in the CE, and we started out with them. And the second question is how hard it was to take those regulatory challenges and solve them. It was really, really hard. But honestly, it's still really, really hard because most of these regulatory challenges are created without consulting with the banking sector and what kind of technology we have and what kind of processes we have. So every year there is a big mammoth of we have to and need. I will go back to my story of link governance. So I think if the system is good, where you manage your resources and you have well-defined requirements from business and they go hand in hand with technology, you can solve this. But there's going to be always things that are outstanding and currently not solved from a regulatory standpoint. But the basic minimum you have to do.
Yeah, János, I just wanted to add that PSD2 is currently supported out of box in OBPay. So if you're upgrading from older versions, right, most of the regulatory requirements in terms of banking is supported out of the box, right?
Yep. I think you guys have covered it because I would have added that at the time of the implementation, we actually chose a third-party provider, but as we now get into the new FLEXCUBE, some of these are out-of-the-box features. That's, I rushed through a little because I wanted to make sure we keep the hour, but then I saw that we actually have some time blocked off for additional questions. So if you have additional questions, I don't know, Niranjan, do we go to the floor now to take questions, or?
I have received a question. I can see the question is how easy 14.4 is to use as compared to previous version, and I think there is a related question to that. Is what are some of the out-of-the-world features in 14.4 that will completely transform the bank? So I think I can answer both of them together, right? So ease of use in terms of 14.4, we have to look at it from two different perspectives. One is the end user who is actually putting the transactions in FLEXCUBE, or be the customer who is using the digital experience layer. And second point is ease of use for the IT and maintenance team from software maintenance perspective. So taking first things first, the end user, right? The end user gets to see the completely revamped look and feel, be it the digital experience through mobile phone, mobile app, or internet banking, or the UI of the new UI of FLEXCUBE, which is built on HTML5, CSS3. The dashboard that you see when you log in, you can look at the different queues, alerts. And when you're doing a transaction, you have the whole, I would say, history of the customer in terms of what is the outstanding, what is the different accounts, different lines of business that you are engaging with the customer. Everything you can see, and you can actually cache the user detail, the customer detail when you are doing a transaction. So you don't have to, rekey the account number when you are doing a Taylor transaction. You can go open the customer, you can query, you can choose the account and say that I'm going to use this, and from there. So the workflow itself has changed, and it has been made customer-centric rather than system-centric. Of course, this thought process has made end users' life very easy. Now, second point about as IT, right, for systems maintenance and implementation. What I've seen is the deployment toolkit. It's much better. You just have to download it and set up the parameter for various folders and rights and so on, and it works. And it's not like earlier case where you had to actually dig through what went wrong. Now FLEXCUBE talks to you, and the log files that it generates are extremely descriptive. They tell we have started dumping the whole tag trace for any error that comes in. It is descriptive. So similarly, end of day monitoring has been improved. Your system's performance monitoring has been improved. So of course, it is easier to use compared to earlier version because of the advancement in the technology front, right?
Thank you, Vivek. I think and I also addressed so I was just looking at the questions. I've also addressed it in my presentation as well. Obviously, looking at the component approach, the digital layer, the engagement layer, it's all, the new UX, UI, it's really actually, I never thought I'd say this, but a core banking system actually can engage the audience, and as Vivek says, the user and the internal user as well. Guys, I'm getting messages from our admins that we should cut off on time. I really appreciate from both of you all the great inputs. János, Vivek, I think it was enlightening and great. I appreciate that the audience, or the participation from the audience, the questions, the good questions we had. The recording will be shared, this will be available as well. And let us know if you have any questions. We're here to help. We're here to answer those, so you can contact us directly as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Mark, I have just one crib. Even though I kept my good side in front of the camera, I still you went with János and you told him he looks much more younger than I do. So we'll sort it out later.
Well, I couldn't take that honor.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, János. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you very much.